Human beings have been sharing stories for hundreds of thousands of years, and with those stories came the emotional, spiritual, and physical knowledge of the ancients. Shaman Durek is a third-generation shaman, an evolutionary innovator, and a women's empowerment leader. He's here to bring forth the ancient wisdom of our elders to help heal and bring happiness into our modern society. We're sharing ancient knowledge in modern times in order to put the power back in people's hands. Welcome to the tribe.
Hi, everyone. This is Shaman Durek, and I'm so happy you're here. And I'm so happy that you're on this planet, being able to witness all the amazing energies that are showing up in your life right now. Isn't it exciting to feel that energy rising in your spine, rising from your stomach, rising in your mind, and empowering your energy, knowing that there's great things showing up in your life right now. And all of those beautiful things that are showing up are bringing prosperity, love, healing, nurturing, and understanding and deep wisdom into your life so that you can affect change not only in yourself, but in the people around you and then globally. And that is so powerful. Do you feel that warm energy building up in the center of your chest? Can you feel that energy that's all around you right now that's premating this beautiful love energy all around you, this pure unconditional vibe? Well, it feels good, doesn't it? Well, I know it does because I feel it and I know you feel it too. And it's powerful. So I'm happy that you're here with us and you get to be and witness an amazing show and download some amazing information to take with you, beautiful gems of wisdom to share in your life. So get ready for an amazing show and always remember, I love you. Hi, everyone. This is Shaman Durek, and I'm so excited about our show today. Special guest star, Bonnie Wright, and she's a friend of mine. I'm sure you all remember who she is. She was Ginny in Harry Potter. She's an amazing person, a beautiful soul. I'm so happy to welcome her to our tribe. As you know, I bring in different people to speak about different things, to join our tribe, to share conversation, and to be with all of us. And it's an honor to have Bonnie. We had such a wonderful time yesterday, spending the day eating raw food, laughing, just having a good time. And it's really nice to have her on the show. She is a magical being, you know, as she was when she was in Harry Potter. She's just as magical and more powerful than she ever was. She is taking life like by the grip and really, you know, swimming her way through a lot of world changes and making, very smart decisions about how she wants to affect the world in a big way. She's amazing, powerful person. I'm happy that we're friends. I'm happy she's in my life. And, just so much I can learn from her, so much we can learn from each other. So it's so wonderful to have her. And I love her so much.
Hello.
Hello, my love.
Hi.
So anyway, I wanted to just kind of go into, I'm sure you heard how I introduced you and everything, because you really are truly magic. And, and I think that, with you and I and what we're going to do in this world and what we're actually doing in the world and what we're going to continue to do, and just getting people on board is so beautiful. But let's talk about your beginning stages in the land of magic, which is just a wonderful thing. And for those of you who are watching, by the way, magic is real. So let's, so even though you see the whole Harry Potter, Bonnie can tell you that the magic does exist. It's in all of us.
It's true. It's very, very true. And I think it's incredible that, J.K. Rowling created this world that we could go home to and realize that magic is real and there's a family to return to that Harry discovers. And I definitely loved being part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So how old were you when you first, and I know a lot of these things, but I'm just sharing it with things, but how old were you when you?
I was 9 years old when I began in the film. So super, super young. And it lasted for 10 years. So I was 9 till I was 19.
What was it like when you first found out that you were going to be in this movie series? Or was it even a movie series at the time when you found out?
Well, I guess at first, I mean, I think 3 books had come out when we first started filming. So I think everyone knew that. I mean, it was very much aware that Joe was going to write the 7 years of Harry's life at Hogwarts, but we all didn't know if for sure it was going to be 7 movies, which obviously ended up being 8. But it was film by film, really, at the beginning, until probably about the 5th film did we suddenly realize, and the producers all realized, let's kind of make sure we're all tied down and we complete this series. So it was, I mean, I completely stepped into the unknown, and it was exciting and mysterious and unusual, and everything was new to me and to most of the other cast as well. And that's what made it so lovely as an experience, that, you know, it wasn't a solo experience. I experienced it with a group of other similar aged and similar experienced kids and to adults.
So what was it like on the set being a kid? Did you get to play? Did you have fun? Were you excited about, I know for me, because as you know, I'm a shaman and I grew up in the world of magic. So for me, I always felt like the kid who belonged at Hogsworth, but you know, I never got the invitation. I had to teach, yeah, exactly. I'm going to be in there in a second. But what was it like going into that amazing energy, that land, the story as a kid, and being a part of that power?
It was incredible. I think we were so, you know, the magic of filmmaking was so real to me. That was something that I was so inspired by. These sets that were created by Stuart Craig, who's an incredibly talented production designer, was so real and so steeped in that, the tone that J.K. writes in. So they felt so magical and beautiful. I mean, the Great Hall was huge set to step into. And it was also, and the costumes and the detail and everything were just so rich in terms of, you know, the imagination that was just sparked the minute that you stepped on set was so helpful in terms of performance. I think especially for us as you know, new and young actors, I think it really helped us the minute we put on our robes and we stepped inside of the Great Hall. It was like you were instantly transported to this other place. And I think it did become that for me. And I think I realized that upon finishing the films, what a kind of world bubble vortex that I sort of dived into and became part of only really made sense when the movies finished. Like on reflection, when they became part of the past, I suddenly sort of saw them differently.
And would you do, we were saying last night when we were hanging out that, if this world, J.K. Rowling's got this world from some dimension. She, because when anything we write, we're channeling it from another dimension, and she's bringing it to our dimension, into our world. Did you feel like your character as Ginny has a lot to do with who you are as who you are as Bonnie?
Yeah, it's funny, I think, as well, when you take on a role for so long at that time, it's so, the lines begin to blur as to sort of who you are and who the character is. And I think that probably happened for a lot of us. Like, you spend so much time with this character, you sort of begin to think, am I just playing me, or is she part of me? And I think it was more in the sense that I admired a lot of aspects of her. As Ginny, she was very, the female characters that she wrote, Joe Rowling wrote, were so strong and so powerful. And, she's very sporty. She's a Quidditch player. I always was such a tomboy. And, I didn't have all those brothers, but I had one brother, older brother, and I understood that love and that male kind of quality that you have when you have an older brother to look up to, and what that does to you as a person and as a woman. And I really admired the sort of warrior quality that I really love to play into and perform into. Yeah, I guess I did, we all did in a way become part of those characters. When you spend so long with something, it's quite unusual. It's not really like any other acting experience when you go and you sort of give it your all for a few months and then you release that character.
Well, how do you, so my thing is interesting, being a shaman, I always tell a lot of my friends who are actors and actresses that they're actually channeling a spirit into their body. Do you feel like Ginny another being in another dimension who lives in that magical world. And because J.K. Rowling tapped into that, brought it into our world, and you stepped into that space, that the spirit chose you to play that role, which is because it has a lot to do with who you are as a person and the way that you look at life.
Yeah, I think, when I first got the role, you sort of just in a daze and you think, why me? And what's the reasoning behind like the casting of me? I have no experience. Like, why have I landed into this? But I think the beauty of it happening at that age is I didn't really question that too much. I just sort of went with it because I think you do when you're younger and you have that fearlessness that sort of you don't question the things that are kind of a waste to question, and why not just roll with it and be present to it. So I think the beauty of it happening when I was really young was that I was just like, okay, cool. You just sink or swim and you swim, And then in terms of it in another realm, I think why Harry Potter is so hugely loved by so many people and will continue through time is that the world that she tapped into is so rich of mythology, astrology, herbology, all these different things that she's so knowledgeable and passionate about have come through. And not only have they come through in just referencing like you can do with that knowledge, but also just there's like a feeling and a reverence that she has for those other worlds and other dimensions that like come through, I think, so strongly. And I think that's why when anyone's reading the book, they can have their own take on the magical world and of Hogwarts, because you can almost walk the corridors yourself. And I think that's the feeling you get when you read these books, is that you can almost have your own sort of Hogwarts avatar and walk around and be with these people and with these characters. And it makes it accessible in a way that I think, those magical worlds necessarily aren't so much in storytelling, especially popular culture kind of storytelling. So yeah, I think the world and the phenomena that's come out of Harry Potter does make it almost feel like it's a world that is like there for us always to tap into.
That's interesting that you said that, because my whole theory is that this world is magic, but magic has been lost on this world. And, and then I showed you some of my magical powers last night. And, I show people, my whole thing is about bringing magic back to the planet and really showing people that it's not that magic does exist, but you need to know how to find it and bring it back. And it's like, because we've been so pulled into the industrial age, into technology and all these things, it's taken us away from the sensitivities of those energies and being able to tap into those realms and tap into the energy that's there. And I think that what Harry Potter did was, there's a part of all of us that knows magic is real. And there's a part of all of us that wants to be able to move things with our mind, that wants to be able to make something float across the room. There's that part of us inside that is seeking to the part of who we are before we've taken this form, that knows that there's some kind of power that exists, but why can't we tap into it? And I think that what Harry Potter did was give people a sense of holding on to that beautiful spark. Yeah, would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. And I think like similar things that we spoke about yesterday, this idea that if something doesn't look like us, like another human being, then it's like terrifying, and we'd prefer to sort of, put a veil or like to kind of block that sort of other dimension and other world. And I think it's a strange thing when we constantly daydream of things that are beyond us and look different and look more mystical or have like a reverence. But yet the reality of accepting something that operates differently than us, or thinks differently than us, or can do things differently than us, or maybe we can do things similar to them, but we don't, it looks too foreign, or we're too scared to be vulnerable to allow that to come through and to come in. I don't know, I guess for me, like a huge word for me that I probably think and say every hour is mystery. I think it's such an attractive quality in other people. It's such a thing that makes me kind of be intrigued by things, or write stories and create mystery and the idea of thinking the amount of layers that we're yet to see or yet to experience or feel. And maybe you kind of felt like I started to, with some of the stuff that we did yesterday. And that just like, that excites me so much, that limitless mystery that that is here and available to us.
Right. And when I taught you how to pull electricity through your body in from the spirit world, and as soon as you say, I'm not afraid, and I show you how to harness electricity, you can feel it.
Yeah.
You know? And it's really because I was in London, and the London Times did a story of me. They brought in like one of the biggest skeptics. They wanted to see like if I really had powers. And so they brought me in, and they were like, she's like, I'm just gonna let you know if this isn't real, I'm gonna write about it. And I was like, okay. And through this session, I was teaching her how to connect with the different realms and different dimensions to pull magic into her body. And when she felt these energies pass through her, and when she saw the visions and the images and the things that happened, she was like, oh my God, this is real.
Yeah.
And she had to leave, Bonnie, and walk down Trafalgar Square for a long time. And I had another person coming in to interview me, and she came back and she's like, I have to change my whole interview. I have so many questions for you. And she wrote a beautiful article. And in the article, she said it felt like she was at Harry Potter's.
No, really? Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And so let me ask you this question. What's your favorite spell?
There was one I used to like because it was so destructive called Reducto that I did in Harry Potter, my character did. But I think at the end of the day, the simple Lumos, which is the light at the end of the wand that brings light.
Yeah.
I mean, we all need more light. So that's
beautiful. What do you think based on my personality? Do you think I belong? Because, I did the whole Harry Potter test to see which house I belong in.
Yeah,
Do you think I fit Ravenclaw?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely.
I'm very, very Ravensclaw, right? So let's talk about the real magic. I'm going to say the real magic because that's because everything is magic. But let's talk about the magic that you're living in your life right now. Since you've been on Harry Potter, you've taken that experience and you now become a director, an activist. Let's talk about how you're now taking everything that you experience and bringing that to the world. What's that like being outside of that whole Harry Potter experience and now going into these other areas of your life?
I guess for me, finishing my education, going to university and having sort of a few years to go and kind of study that was just for me. Like, I think I needed to sort of like get a bit of ownership back on some experience of mine that had been so kind of collective and so huge. Like, I loved going to study and to sort of finish my degree and work I did my degree in directing and writing and filmmaking, and just begin to make much smaller scale projects that felt like that they didn't need to even go anywhere. They were just like for me, like to sort of work again almost from the ground up and sort of work out what stories I wanted to tell and what my voice was, and just kind of completely go into a different world. And it's because, Harry Potter movies are just so big, they're so vast and they're so unusual. So that was what was really important to me, to sort of go back to basics almost and sort of build from the ground up in a way that felt like I could take full kind of, ownership and choice over. And out of that, slowly my love for directing kept kind of going and continuing and just learning. I feel like I've been in such a state of and stage of just learning really and just experiencing and learning from making. I think that's often something that, we can all go to school and we can take lessons, but until we do things and we actually take actions, I don't think you can really.
I agree with that 100%.
I think just from making films and making mistakes and making things I didn't like and don't like now, but loved in the moment, or maybe other things that I hated then, but realized how important they were for a process of mine. That's been really important. And then I guess for me, the activism work and the work that I've done with different organizations have been, I guess they've always been that the time that you can give over sort of money that you can give to organizations has always been a really important thing to me, just from the sense that from quite a young age, I was always so interested in giving my time and doing different sort of things through school or through my family that was somehow going to a cause that was, for someone who couldn't be heard or something that was beyond my experience. And I then realized that, when I first got really into working with charities and organizations was when I was really young. And I know and love the fact that the audience that I speak to are, you know, naturally and through Harry Potter much younger. And I think it's really important to feel empowered at that age when you start aligning
completely
with things that you end up probably carrying for the rest of your life, in terms of like aligning yourself with causes and issues that you probably will naturally hold dear to you for quite a long time. And just that empowerment to realize that the time that you can spend helping things or your social voice or different things is as important, and if not more, than people who are financially able to donate and different things. So I've just been so lucky and grateful that I've had this platform to speak upon. And it hasn't even come from a sense of feeling like, oh, I have this platform, I should speak up and you know, talk about issues.
No, it's coming from a place. As I know you, you are a fully authentic person. And that's what I love about you.
Thank you.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. And also I think that dialogue is so priceless in terms of to know and understand what people want, or maybe what they're struggling with to understand about certain causes and issues. It's such a quick way to have a dialogue with people. To, you know, you might think that something's a clear story of something that's happening in this world that's, you know, unjust, but then you realize, oh, wait a second, maybe actually that cause and effect people aren't quite understanding, and there's an education around it that needs to be maybe communicated better, that maybe hasn't been, or just like putting topics and dialogues on people's radar that they naturally may have not come across.
I think it's important, especially with the social climate right now. I think that a lot of, you know, especially young, because I work with people all over the world, as you know, working and dealing with a lot of issues is also, you know, getting out of the victim consciousness and realizing that you can start in any area of your life, you know, and really kind of, how do we bring that focus with all the stuff that's going on in the world? I feel like people sometimes feel like overwhelmed, you know, and I think what's happening is, I think this is a time for us to kind of like use that overwhelmingness as a way to break through to a creative aspect of ourselves so that we can actually go beyond what we actually see. I call it being the true rebel, right? And being the true rebel is like utilizing that energy that's actually affecting you, causing you anxiety, causing you stress. You see it on the news, you hear it from other people, and taking that energy and bringing it in and using that to bring art, to bring creativity, to have a voice, to go into something that you're actually supportive of, be it an organization or so forth.
Yeah, because naturally, I mean, all these issues are like overwhelming, you know, they are truly overwhelming. And, you know, often most of the time you hear the reaction that it's like, well, anything I do just won't make any difference, you know, and you just like, you just relinquish your power just like in that one quick second.
Yeah.
And I think, like you're saying, I think it is so systemic. So many issues are so big that in a way, the only way that any big change is going to happen is if we start, you know, breaking down the systems that are clearly like not working right now, and like having new ones that they're only going to come about if we think out of the box and we think laterally and we think creatively and we work together to sort of, you know, it's like we were talking about, you know, the abilities of scientists and mathematicians. Like they're actually incredibly creative lateral thinkers that have learned all of the equations and they've learned all the
exactly.
And then they throw them all away and they think of some ridiculous, far-fetched idea, and then they suddenly prove something that people have spent years trying to figure out, and it's only happened in that, you know, that way. And I think, yeah, it's just thinking of some sort of crazy new methods to the madness.
I think that one of the things I always say is that in order for us to fix the planet, you know, we have to first fix the imbalance on the planet. You know, one of the first imbalances was, you know, when we first came to Earth was our parental system, the parents' idea of what's good and what's good and what's not good may not be right for us. So someone's idea of like, if you do this, you're going to get rewarded. And if you don't do this, you're going to get punished is the same idea that we were taught about God and creation, which is like, if we don't do this, if we do this, we're going to go to heaven. If we don't do this, we're going to go to hell. It's the same Santa Claus. If you do good things during the year, Santa's going to put gifts under the tree. If you don't do good things, you're not going to get gifts under the tree. And I think what that does is it makes people go against their true nature because, as a child, you're being told this by your family. But let's say, for instance, you're an artist and your family's trying to push you into something more academic, but you came to Earth to be an artist, and it's through your art that's actually going to transform the world. Or maybe it's your voice, or maybe it's your creative ideas that come out of you. And I think what happens is that we get so caught up in wanting to be liked and wanting to be loved because that's what we were told that makes us good, quote unquote good, that it limits us from our ability to see who we truly are. And I think that when we don't see who we truly are, we don't know how we can utilize our power to actually take action and make changes in the way that we really, really want to. And if we stop for a second and go, wait a second, our school system is not working for us. It's not trying to, the system isn't about getting to know us. It's about seeing if we're really good at being, following rules and being slaves and building for the system. It's not like we come to Earth and they're like, okay, we want to know why you're on this planet, what you've come here to bring. So we're going to open this container of freedom for you with love and also boundaries so that you can explore who you are, and we can help you from wherever you explore to be able to bring that out into the world. But we have a system that says, here's what's available at school. And I remember for me, I remember going to school and being in history class, and I asked my history teacher, I'm like, why am I in this class? And she was like, because it's history. And I was like, yeah, but history should be teaching us something and nothing's changed. So how is this really history? This is actually happening right now, and, and then I couldn't understand, why do I have classes that are like this when I'm a person who is very, about, the spirit world, the energies, talking to the people on the other side, seeing through the dimensions. There's nothing here that's supporting any of that. So I have no place. This is no place for me.
Yeah. And then I remember already thinking that I stopped doing some subjects at school because in that moment when I was 15, I just, in the UK system, you're already dropping a lot of subjects by the time when you're 15. I mean, what did I didn't know. And my mind was changing and developing all the time because that through those years, from day to day, you can feel like a different person, let alone from year to year. And I think so much change goes on during those times. How can you be sort of boxed and jump through all these loopholes? Well, not loopholes, but, these kind of exam kind of stages that we go through. What does that even, there's just no room to move. You get so boxed in so quickly that there's no, you do this and this person won't like you do this and you'll fail at it in your mind. And I think there's just there's no room for a playful creativity that can allow, joy in, or it can allow new thought in, new ideas in, or, the spirit in. There's no, it's oh, no. I think it.
Yeah. It's watch out.
Yeah.
Something. Someone said, do you keep in touch with the cast members?
I do. It's beautiful that all of us have ended up in all different parts of this world and are all doing different projects and, people getting married, having babies. It's crazy. It's like having school friends, it's this, and it's also, it was such a particular experience that no matter how much you try and explain it to anyone, you can't really quite explain it. But for us, we all experienced that together. So there's this kind of unspoken connection that is so grounding to be around, and upon finishing, reflect about what the process was. And I feel there's just a space to be really honest with each other about what the whole experience was. And
someone says, any new film, what are your new film projects that you're working on?
Yeah, I have a couple of projects. I have a film of mine called Medusa's Ankles that I made nearly over a year and a half ago that's finally coming out in May. And that's an adaptation of a short story by a British author called A.S. Byatt. And I'm proud of that piece. We built a whole set for that film, and that was really cool, building an entire world. And it's a very heightened, intense, kind of very sensory sort of film, which I love doing. And then I have two different projects that I'm writing. One that is very much inspired by my love of the ocean. And then the other one is with my friend Martin. her and who we did a series last year that went to Tribeca Film Festival called Phone Calls. And this movie is a very interesting one that lots of different supernaturally mystical elements come through. And it's called, at the moment, it's called Still Life.
That sounds awesome. I can't wait.
Great movie that's all set in this one house, and the two, it's basically, I mean, essentially the two protagonists are ghosts. So it's cool.
Ooh, I love that. That's my world.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Someone said, what is some of the things that you're excited about? Or they said, do you think you're going to ever get back into the Harry Potter, movies, I guess, another Harry Potter?
I mean, obviously now we have the Fantastic Beasts movie that I loved, all of the animals that are great.
I loved.
And I think, what's beautiful about this story is that so many, it can go anywhere, literally. I mean, there's so many facets to it. And I think what's exciting now is it's, the next chapters, like it's their time. And I think we had our time, and I loved every minute of it. And I'm sure, you never say never if they suddenly wanted to do some other movie of our characters later on. But I think it's nice. It's quite nice. I'm quite enjoying being an audience member to her world now and watching the new things that come out of the series.
It's cool though to see you all grown up and your kids are in magic school and there's like some new villains.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool, I'll have to come to London and spend time with you.
Yeah.
so I can dance, so we can dance together in the Grand Hall. Exactly. So going on with talking about the ocean projects, the things. How can people, what is your message to the world when it comes to environmental care and love and acknowledging that it's not just about Coca-Cola and sugar and poison, and the system is actually poisoning us and taking away the magic in nature? Like, for instance, in shamanism, we have in our training when we're kids, when we're chosen, we have this knowledge about nature and how nature holds all this powerful energy, and that the water element is an imprintable source. It means that it's a living intelligence. It goes in your body. If you drink a glass of water, it reads all your emotions because water absorbs energy. It reads all of your emotions. You go to the bathroom, you pee, it goes back to the earth. The wind, the sky takes it and rains it down on the earth. The animals eat it in their food, and it literally tells nature about what we're doing, what we're up to, how we're adapting as human beings, and what type of plants should be created and what type of plants need to be more protective, what kind of animals, it tells nature how to adapt. And it's so powerful, but not even just that, but even when I do a lot of work in Iceland, we have the glaciers, and each layer of the glaciers holds water from hundreds and thousands of years, frozen water that is pure information from thousands of years ago, and then gets released into the water and tells nature. And it's all this information of how we've lived as human beings on the crust of the earth. What would be your message, my love, for people in the world to really start thinking about these power and the power of preservation?
Yeah, I think, what you say is such a powerful story in that sense of, we've lost this dialogue with nature that, is a two-way dialogue. It's not, we can gain so much, we can give so much. And I think we've just taken and taken and taken and taken so much and not listened back. And I think that's so much that can be learned just by listening. And I think so much I think for people, like you say, there's the people behind it in terms of the corporations that, need to sort of stop the way in which they do, the way in which they package and provide our goods, and the way in which just pollution at such a grand scale can only be stopped if, unfortunately, the powers that be can really be sort of shifted. But before that, and looking at the individual and what we can do, I think it's, really spending some time to understand what nature is to you as an individual and in what ways. You don't have to look very far. Like, it's right here. We're like, the first part of nature is ourselves. You know, we don't even have to look and go into a forest or onto a beach. Like, we are of it, you know, and we're from it. And I think it's just connecting and finding like your connection to nature, not necessarily one that you feel put upon or you feel like you should revere or have a passion towards, but maybe something, even if it's like a favorite, I don't know, specific kind of species of animal or blade of grass or something that makes it feel like there's something that's a quiet dialogue that you have. And I think through that compassion that you can have, that is a connection that you can own, I think you'll begin to take ownership and realize that we should own up to the fact that, you know, we're massively disrespecting and disregarding the future of our planet and the future of ourselves. And I think so much is out of sight, out of mind, especially with the ocean. You know, it's so vast and it's so uncharted and ununderstood that it's out of sight, out of mind. And you know, not everyone can look upon it and think and see its damage, but just to understand that it is all there and it is, you know, this stuff's happening. And like you say about the water coming through us and back into the earth, this isn't something like, oh, you know, birds and whales and turtles are dying. This is like, no, it's, you know, it's all this plastic is ending up in our bloodstream and in our air. And it's horrible to think that really no one's going to do anything about it until it starts affecting human beings. But that is, I guess, the way that we go, because until it starts affecting us in that ego way, do we really start caring about anything?
I mean, isn't that I mean, that's the thing, is like, why do we have to get to the point of pain? And I just gave this lecture in Europe about this. It's like, why do we have to get to a place of suffering and pain in order to make change on our planet?
Yeah. I think it's just that also that feeling that we just think we are naturally going to survive, like that we're going to survive. Like, if you think of the greater cycles of this earth that it's been through in terms of like, who, you know, what animals and what species have walked this planet and the evolution that have made how we look now and different things. It's just to think that we would think so highly of ourselves. And obviously technology and science has made it so, and, you know, curing diseases and different things have made it so obviously our life expectancy is pretty long and pretty solid, but maybe not. And maybe like it isn't going to be our time always. Like, there are bigger cycles. I kind of believe in that there are bigger cycles that, in order for the earth to be healed and to sort of keep going, maybe there are greater cycles that mean that one day, like, we aren't the species or like we don't look the same as we walk this planet, or maybe we become part of the water again. That's what I hope we just go back and be, you know, part of the ocean again, and the ocean takes over. But that's just my strange world, because I want to be around the sea.
You probably need to go to the ocean planet. There's a planet out there in space that's all just water.
But I think in all of it, it's just understanding, you know, if you see nature in yourself and you see how powerful nature is, then you realize that you are powerful too. And I think you have a power to make choices, you know, you have power to, you know, we all have money that we spend, you know, and we have a power to decide to curve and change the way we want to spend money so it aligns with the type of sustainability that we want to be, you know, a part of. And I think that's the important thing, you know, to realize like, oh no, I won't buy that because I don't support their, you know, lack of sustainability plan they have within their company. So I'm going to decide to not buy that. And I think
exactly,
so much as well 100%. As convenient, you know, we were talking about that yesterday, this idea that, well, an entitlement, you know, you think, well, I can get I'm allowed to have that, and why can't I have that? It's always been like that for years, drinking my drink out of that type of packaging or buying my food. Why shouldn't I? Why do I have to change what I'm doing? Like, why can't they just find? And like you do, there is like a responsibility of realizing that it has to align with things you believe in. Otherwise, you're just talking things into you know, in the same way that, you know, words can be, or names, like he who must not be named in a political sense. Like if you speak
right.
Things, you know, all the time, then you're just in end celebrating and canvassing, like you suggested, for those people. Whereas if you're going to speak into reality this desire to protect nature, protect the ocean, and look after our environment, then like your actions need to reflect that. And I think it's just realizing that you can do it, and every tiny little thing or adds to a greater energy that's shifting.
Well, I think that what I teach people is that they're doing magic all the time. Like every time they say, I can't do something, a spirit comes from the spirit world and makes sure they can. Or if they say, like, life is really hard, then a spirit comes, makes it hard for them, and then if they say, oh, things are going to be so difficult, I don't know if I should go down that path, the spirit immediately comes and makes it difficult for them, because they don't see that every human being on this planet has pure magic in them. Mm-hmm. And so they have every time they open their mouth, they're waving their wand and creating the things that are actually showing up and happening in their lives. And really, like, I took a group of people, I had one group of people say for a whole week, all of the things, like I can't, this and that, and all the things. And I call it cursing yourself, because they're using magic against themselves. And everything went bad for all of them for the whole week. Everyone who did the opposite in my other group that I did, everything opened up for them. All these amazing things happened for them. They met the most amazing people. All these things happen. And I think what happens is that we have to mature our language to realize that every time we think and we open our mouths, we're creating.
Yeah.
And that, like, God,
things, you can speak something into a reality. Like, I really believe that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like the whole consciousness of God being this kind of like Santa Claus theory, I think God truly is just pure magic, and we're operating it. So if we think we should be punished, then the magic's going to make creation. God is going to make sure we get punished.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, is the language in which you use, and in the same way that I very much believe, or I just said it there, but if the more we say we as a collective and us as a community and us together, then we will feel like we are a we and we can do it, and we'll feel more powerful. If it's sort of, if you end up speaking things of hate and I think this and I hate that, and
exactly.
I mean, it's just like using the language to, why not focus on the things you do like, and then maybe more of them will come into your, day to day.
What's our word? We're either creating the solution or we're being the pollution.
Yeah, and you can, especially I think now with the accessibility of social media and for us to feel like we intimately know people, like the dialogue and the language that you're using is like really impressionable and impactful to people who might, look up to certain people, or even just their friends in their community. We have a responsibility to help one another, to inspire each other, and to not pollute the environments we're in, even if it's just like a group of friends together. Not allowing anyone to pollute the conversation or the dialogue that's going maybe across the table at lunch, and redirecting it to positive language, and not getting stuck kind of talking about people and menial things that aren't serving anyone.
That's not doing anything.
Nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the questions was, what's it like? Is it different being in front of the camera or behind the camera, behind the camera?
It's very different. The reason why I think I've really responded to being behind the camera is because I'm quite an observer, and I love to understand the dynamic of how a crew work together. And I feel like I have a sort of intuitive nature to me to enable departments to work together and to sort of direct each of them to kind of come to one thing together. And I think you have to look and see things quite laterally for that to make sense. And I think I just want to be a part of from the sort of birth of the idea to the development and the fruition, and then for it to actually happen. I love to be part of every element of that.
Oh yeah, you're definitely you're definitely hands on every department.
and I think, I guess in the end I realized that I really wanted to tell some of my own stories. And with acting, you are coming in to tell someone's story that's been written, which is obviously also a beautiful experience to do. But for me at this time, I feel like I had maybe it's like, I don't know, maybe I just had too much that I wanted to say, and I felt like the roles that were out there to say them through were not quite speaking to me in a way that I felt like the stories that I wanted to explore, I didn't feel like I could find basically in that moment. And I mean, I like that it has I'm a very like hands-on, I love the tactility of directing. Like it's quite, there's a physical element to it. Well, you can choose to be maybe more of a physical director or not, and the technical side of things, like just really getting into understanding, I know that I can't shoot a scene like a cinematographer can shoot a scene, but to understand and learn from them has just been such a interesting experience, to technically learn from each of the departments in a way that like I just wouldn't have learned if I wasn't trying to create a scene. But yeah, I don't know. I love storytelling, no matter what, if it's film or if it's just talking to you now, or if it's, taking a photo or anything. You're telling a story, same as, activism. You're telling a story, or you're giving a voice to someone that doesn't have a voice, or I think all of it is like about communication and the passing on of a story, which is something that we don't do, in terms of, things we learn about the world, each other, ourselves, were often learned through storytelling and folk tales and folklore and, sitting around a fire and sharing things. And I think that sharing of skills and story is just not something we do. And like, I love learning skills, and I love learning quite, in that kind of craftsmanship way. And so, so storytelling.
I think it's beautiful. Yeah, it's true. I love this thing that this woman, someone, I don't know who they are, but they said, Niramina Mara said, I learned that if sacred words are used appropriately, they would be keys for gateways towards other worlds and magic power. Amazing.
Ooh, wow.
And you know what? I have to say, it's true.
Yeah.
It's so true. I teach people that all the time, how to connect into those energy. Someone said favorite Harry Potter series. Favorite which one? Which chapter?
As a book, I love The Order of the Phoenix, because you suddenly get introduced to all these aura characters and Sirius Black, and you suddenly realize that there are this whole sort of underground collective of these great adult wizards that are doing great things to triumph over evil. And so I really loved and was inspired by those characters. And then for me, I guess making was the Chamber of Secrets, and then the Deathly Hallows Part 2 with the Battle of Hogwarts were my two like big ones for me. But it's hard.
I liked it when you kicked Bellatrix.
According to my mood.
I like that you kicked Bellatrix's butt at the end.
Yeah.
I was so happy. Because as you know, what professor would I be if I was in Harry Potter?
Defense Against the Dark Arts, for sure.
Yep, totally. Yuval Raj says, comment what books you're reading right now. What books are you reading right now?
I've just come to the end of this great book by Philip Pullman that was essays on storytelling. Just like they're a collection of basically lectures he's given or articles he's written about storytelling, and I've just loved every bit of it. He wrote his Dark Materials series and very much works in, this idea of, he's very sort of in love and obsessed with folklore and storytelling in that way, and what we can learn by, fairy tales and the structures that exist within.
Yeah, you're going to send me that on WhatsApp, right?
And then
because I want to get that.
My brother bought me like a bunch of books. There was very much a strong theme. I usually get a lot of books over the holidays, and a strong theme was surfing in the water. So I got a great book called Mindfulness and Surfing that I'm enjoying. And what else? I've been on like a real non-fiction kick at the minute. I feel like I should dive into some more fiction and get.
Bonnie, are you a vegan? We had vegan food yesterday for dinner.
I'm not a vegan. I believe in balance of all things, in terms of never focusing too much on too many food groups, or understanding that some farming and some produce is not necessarily sustainable and things. I think all things in balance. I feel like I know that my health is not very great on such a specific diet like veganism. And I think certain things of certain fads of foods that come out can realize that they can sometimes be quite detrimental to maybe the country in which that's from, like certain grains that become like super, super popular suddenly. We suddenly take away these grains
Become
that
toxic,
are really
yeah.
important for other, for the culture in which they're from. These are these staple things that people have survived off for hundreds of years, and then suddenly they become popular, and they have to export all of their produce that they've spent their entire life, eating and surviving from. So I think with all things, I think it's balance and making sure my main thing is just eating seasonally.
No, that's good. Actually, I like that. I'm vegan, but sometimes I have a hypocritical side. It depends. It depends what's on the table.
Yeah.
But mostly I'm vegan. I'm between vegan, raw, and vegetarian. And I love Ayurvedic.
Yeah,
what did you think of the vegan food, the restaurant that I took you last night? Did you like the food?
Oh, yeah, it was great. I loved it. It was yummy. I just like any dark leafy greens I can just eat plates of.
The Cal Colossus was good, right?
I mean, I've never ever in my life eaten red meat. So I've never eaten beef. I've never eaten, no, pork's not red meat, but there's a lot of foods I just grew up never eating, and I never have.
Let's say, do you like Alan Rickman?
I do. We were all so sad to experience his passing. He gave such an incredible character of Snape to the Harry Potter series that was just such a complex character, such a complex human being that, shows that we can sometimes, misinterpret people, and sometimes people can commit their entire life quietly suffering for a greater good, and I think his character was amazing, and he as a person was just phenomenal. I mean, we were just so lucky to be surrounded by all these incredible actors that, I mean, they were just to observe and watch.
I love him.
Yeah, he's amazing. And he's
the kind of teacher that, he's the way that,
he's a teacher you like terrified to have but secretly want.
He's wonderful. And he also is the teacher, a professor for Against the Dark Arts, right?
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I liked him. I spend most of my life protecting people. Oh, wow. Let's see. So talking about the Harry Potter and everything that you experience with it, what do you feel was the thing that you learned the most in leaving? Because was it 8 years old to 19?
9 till 19.
9 to 19. That's a very long time.
Yeah, it's big.
So when you were on set, what were your parents doing?
So I was really lucky. My parents have and work for themselves. They have their own business. They're jewelry designers, and they have a company that allowed them to, either one of them would come with me on set, sort of, took it in turn. So I very much still had that sort of that intimacy and love and protection of a family member every day that I was filming, and that made everything so lovely. And I was so lucky that I was able to do that, and that they were also part of the experience. It wasn't something that I kind of went away and did.
How wonderful to share that with them.
And then my brother too, he came a lot on set, my older brother, and he very much shared that experience with me, which was amazing. But I guess what did I learn the most?
What was your takeaway? If you could go back and say, okay, this is what I got in those years. I think this is my big takeaway.
I think for me, no matter how big of an actor that some of the actors that we worked with, or how famous of a cinematographer or director, or how highly regarded a costume designer you could be, at the end of the day, every single person that I met and respected were always just such patient, giving, and incredible people. And I think it just taught me from such a young age that just about integrity. I think just to think that you can get to where you really want to be and still be an incredible person, And I think that I've gone on to realize that anyone that I've ever really respected or loved, and I've been nervous to sort of meet in case they're sort of terrible people that I don't like, I've always been proved that, if someone's truly, really good at what they do, or very talented at what they do, they're always just amazing people. And I think it's realizing that you can be and have all of the things that you might want for your career and still be a great person.
Wow, 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 wow. What an amazing show. It's so awesome to have Bonnie Wright with her magic from the Harry Potter all the way to activism and to bringing information that is about really bringing change to the planet Earth. And think about the ways that you can bring change to the Earth too. It can even just start with a smile or a really genuine hug. You see, it doesn't take that much for us to make a difference in someone's life. And so all we have to do is go out there and share our love with people in the best way we know how, which is just being you in your authentic nature. Yes! Amazing. I'm so excited for you to experience new shows and amazing shows here on Ancient Wisdom today. It brings me such pleasure to see you light up as these beautiful shows are streaming new information into your mind so that you can experience a whole new life with new experiences and amazing opportunity that is constantly showing up for you. So it is wonderful. So I look forward to seeing you again in the tribe. And remember, you can follow me at Shaman Durek at Instagram, Shaman Durek, or Twitter, or check me out at www.shamandurek.com. And do me a favor. It only takes a couple minutes. Leave me a review. Share your love with people so that we can get the message, take down the matrix, and make some amazing things happen in the world. It's time for change. You're the change. I'm the change. Let's do it. See you next show. Love you.